My name is Lena Faulkner. I'm 31 years old, and I can tell you exactly when my relationship ended. It wasn't the day I left. It was the moment my boyfriend humiliated me in front of my boss and smiled while doing it. That night, my company hosted its quarterly dinner. Elegant rooftop restaurant, the kind with glass walls and champagne that costs more than my weekly groceries. My boss, Julia, had insisted I bring Philip. You always talk about how supportive he is, Lena. Bring him. It'll be nice to finally meet the man behind your success. I'd smiled back then, believing she meant it. Philip was charming, the kind of man who could turn any stranger into a fan within 10 minutes. And me, I was the quiet one, the steady half. That evening, everything started beautifully. He looked sharp in a dark suit, that careless confidence in his stride. He kissed my cheek before we walked in, whispered, "Relax, babe, I'll make you look good tonight." I thought he meant it kindly. Dinner began with laughter and polite conversation. Julia started talking about the Patterson project, the biggest account I'd ever handled. "Lena practically saved us," Julia said, raising her glass. Her framework got the client to renew for 3 years. Everyone clapped. I smiled, embarrassed, but proud. Then Philip chuckled. That low, dismissive laugh he used when he wanted attention. "Oh, come on," he said. "You're giving her too much credit." I basically had to walk her through it. Silence. Even the waiter froze for a beat. Julia frowned slightly. "Walk her through it." Philip leaned back, still grinning. "Yeah, she's brilliant with people, but when it comes to tech, let's just say she needs a tutor. I practically teach her half the stuff she uses." A few nervous laughs. I felt my heart sink like a stone. He wasn't done. "She's adorable when she's confused, though," he added. "Just last week, she couldn't even update her LinkedIn. I had to do it for her. Bless her heart." Bless her heart. That phrase landed like a slap. I saw the flicker in Julia's eyes the moment she wondered if what he said was true. I wanted to disappear, but I didn't. I just smiled, my nails digging into my palm under the table. When the waiter poured wine, I watched the red swirl like a warning. I told myself, don't react. Not here, not in front of them. The rest of the dinner dragged on like a bad play. Philip kept tossing out little jokes about me being scatterbrained, how he proofreads all my emails. Lies, all of them. But if I corrected him, I'd look defensive. If I stayed quiet, I looked weak. So I laughed softly, even as my chest burned. Across the table, my colleague Mark tried to steer the conversation elsewhere. "Anyway, Julia, did you see the new prototype?" But Philip wasn't done performing. He raised his glass toward me, smirking. "To my favorite student." The whole table fell silent again. The drive home was thick with unspoken tension. City lights flickered against the windshield like small, accusing eyes. Philip drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, humming. Finally, he said, "Well, that went perfectly. Julia loved me." I stared out the window. "You think so?" "Of course. I mean, sure, you got a little quiet, but I carried the social part right. You're not a natural talker." "That's okay, babe. We balance each other." I turned to him, then studied his face under the dim streetlight. He looked utterly content. No idea what he'd done. No idea what had just broken. "Yeah," I said softly. "We balance each other." He smiled, oblivious. "Knew you'd see it that way." When we got home, he went straight to bed. Didn't notice I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the empty wine glass I hadn't finished. Didn't notice my hands shaking. Didn't notice that I didn't turn off the light when I finally sat down to write. I opened a small notebook and wrote the first sentence that came to mind. He humiliated me, and I smiled anyway. Then below it, "Tomorrow I'll stop smiling." I folded the paper carefully, slipped it into the pocket of my coat, and felt a strange calm settle over me. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of staying. Saturday morning arrived quietly, too quietly, for someone whose world had just cracked in half. Philip was humming in the bathroom, steam curling under the door. He always sang when he thought things were perfect. He kissed my forehead on his way-out gym bag over his shoulder. "Yoga class, then brunch with the guys," he said. "Don't wait up. I'll grab us something later." I nodded, smiling faintly, pretending everything was fine. When the door clicked shut, I exhaled. That sound, the lock sliding into place, felt like permission. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just moved. Fast, methodical, deliberate. The suitcase under the bed came out first. The one I hadn't touched since our last trip, the one where he'd spent the flight lecturing me about my tone when I asked him to lower his voice. I started packing laptop documents, clothes, charger. Only the essentials. He always teased me for labeling my files and color-coding folders. He called it obsessive. Today it made leaving effortless. Every box, every drawer was a memory I didn't need. The photo on the nightstand, Philip kissing my cheek, Both of us smiling under a festival of lights went straight into the trash. I whispered to it, "You can keep that version of me. She's gone." By 9:30 a.m., the apartment looked like a ghost had passed through. Just my shoes by the door, my keys on the counter, and one note. I wrote it slowly, carefully. Philip, I may not be clever in your eyes, but I'm wise enough to leave. The lease is in your name. The keys are on the counter. The silence is yours now. Lena. I set the note beside his favorite coffee mug, the one that said #CEO in progress. It felt poetic. Before I left, I took one last look around the apartment. The living room was filled with things that were mine, but somehow never felt like they belonged to me. The couch he chose, the art he approved, the curtains he let me pick. The space looked exactly the same, but suddenly it wasn't home. By 10:00 I was gone. My best friend Maya had been begging me to move into her spare room for months. She opened the door before I could knock. "Oh my God, you did it?" I nodded. "Yeah, I did." She didn't ask for details, she just hugged me and said, "You can love a man, Lena, but don't raise one." We both laughed softly like we were afraid the sound would shatter something fragile. While I unpacked, I started the real cleanup. Passwords first, changed them all. Bank accounts, emails, business tools, server access. Philip had been running his freelance consulting business through my home office setup. He'd built his shiny reputation on my infrastructure, the server I maintained. The licenses I paid for the clients I'd introduced him to. He called it teamwork. I called it free labor. At noon, I disconnected everything web hosting domain, access cloud storage. With one click, his empire went dark. By afternoon, my phone began to buzz, then shake, then explode. First, "Where are you?" Then, "Babe, this isn't funny." Then, "You can't just leave in the middle of a fight. I was trying to help your image." Then, "You're so ungrateful. How am I?" It was almost absurd. His first concern wasn't losing me. It was losing my Wi-Fi. At 3:00 p.m., Maya peeked into my room. "You okay?" I showed her the flood of messages. She whistled. Classic Philip. Losing control and calling it love. I blocked his number, then another, and another. He started using unknown ones. By nightfall, the silence settled in. I sat by the window of Maya's apartment watching the city lights flicker like distant promises. The kind of quiet that used to make me anxious now felt sacred. For years, Philip had filled every silence with his voice opinions, advice, corrections. Now the silence belonged to me. I whispered to the glass, "Peace sounds like this." And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel wrong. I felt free. Monday came with sunlight and something I hadn't felt in years, clarity. Until my work phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, another call, same number. Then 3 back-to-back emails hit my inbox, all from Philip. Subject. Urgent. "You've made a huge mistake, Lena. I apologize." I blinked. Sorry. Philip's little performance, everyone saw through it. Mark even showed me the video he caught by accident. She smirked. "You handled yourself with class, Lena. The way you smiled instead of snapping, that told me everything." I exhaled slowly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Julia said. "Just remember, smart women don't need loud men to prove their worth." That line stuck with me for the rest of the day. By evening, the text turned venomous. "You're ruining me. You owe me for all the work we did together. I'll sue." Then the shift. "Please, I can't do this without you. You know my business can't survive. Don't throw us away over one stupid joke." He'd never called what he did humiliation or cruelty. Always jokes. Always helping my image. I didn't reply. 2 days later, he showed up. Reception called up. "Lena, there's a man downstairs. Says it's an emergency about your computer systems." My stomach dropped. When I stepped into the lobby there, he was, Philip hair, messy eyes red, holding his laptop like it was a wounded child. "You have to fix it," he said, loud enough for half the building to hear. "Nothing's working. My files, my emails, everything's broken." I crossed my arms. "Sounds like a you problem." "Don't be petty, Lena. Just fix it and we can talk about us later." "There is no U.S. Philip, and I'm not your IT department." Security exchanged glances. One of them whispered, "Should we escort him out?" I nodded. "Please." As they led him away, he turned and shouted, "You'll regret this. You owe me for everything I built with you." I almost laughed. Everything he built with me on my laptop, my software, my dime. When the glass doors closed behind him, I felt something uncoil in my chest. Not joy, just peace. But Philip wasn't done. When manipulation fails, some men turn to lies. Thursday morning, my mom called. "Sweetheart, What's this? I'm hearing Philip called me, said you've had a breakdown. I froze. What? He said you vanished, left him destitute, claimed you're not in your right mind. Her voice sharpened. I told him. Good for her. I laughed in disbelief. You didn't. Oh, I did. You think I liked that man? We only tolerated him because you loved him. That's when I realized Philip had underestimated everyone. He called my sister next. She hung up mid-sentence. He tried an old college friend of mine who texted me a screenshot. Your ex is spiraling. You okay? By Friday, I got the final act of desperation, an email formatted to look like a legal notice. Subject demand for restoration of services. To Ms. Lena Faulkner. You are hereby required to reinstate all shared business assets and pay $15,000 for lost revenue and emotional damages. Failure to comply will result in legal consequences. Sincerely, Philip Cole. No lawyer name, no firm header, just bold fonts and entitlement. I forwarded it to my friend Clara, who is an attorney. Her response, he wants you to pay him for stopping your free tech support. That's bold. Frame it and hang it above your desk. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my tea. That weekend I turned off my phone completely. No notifications, no noise, just music candles and Maya's cat purring on my lap. When Sunday ended, I whispered to myself, he's unraveling. And though a small, cruel part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, all I felt was pity, because I knew what was coming next. When a man like Philip loses control, he doesn't learn. He destroys. The next chapter of Philip's downfall began ironically with a notification sound. Monday morning. I was in a meeting when my work email pinged. Subject line, professional concern regarding Lena Faulkner. I froze. It wasn't from Philip directly, it was forwarded by Harrison Wells, my mentor. The message below made my blood run cold. From Philip Cole to multiple recipients, 12 total. Hello, I'm reaching out to warn you about a former colleague, Lena Faulkner. She's mentally unstable and has stolen proprietary business data. I regret introducing her to any of you. Please exercise caution in future dealings. My name, my reputation, all there in black and white. Harrison's note on top said simply, this your ex. I called him instantly. Oh my God, Harrison. He interrupted laughing. Kid, relax. Everyone he emailed is your contact, not his. They know who built what. You're fine. He just nuked his own career. I sat there stunned, torn between fury and disbelief. He'd just publicly confessed to sabotage while accusing me of it. Harrison chuckled. 12 people called me about this. They all said the same thing. Is she okay? We're cutting ties with him. I didn't even need to fight back. Philip was doing all the work for me. 2 days later, karma landed harder. Jason, one of Philip's drinking buddies, texted me out of nowhere. Are you seriously going to let him get evicted? It's getting bad. He says you owe half the rent. Evicted. I blinked at the message, then typed back. He insisted the lease be in his name. Remember, I need to build my own credit, babe. Jason replied with screenshots of their chat, Philip raging, claiming I abandoned my share. He genuinely believed I was still financially responsible for his home. I sent one final reply. Tell Philip this independence has consequences. Then I blocked Jason too. That night my phone rang again. This time it was the building's number from my old address. I didn't pick up, but a voicemail came through. Ms. Faulkner, this is the property manager. We're contacting you because Mr. Cole listed you as a co-tenant. Please confirm your status. He'd tried to drag me into his mess. I called back calmly explaining the truth. The manager sighed audibly. Got it, thank you. He's 3 months behind on rent, by the way. 3, not 2. Meaning his lies had started before I even left. Thursday, the chaos evolved into theater. Reception called again. Lena, there's someone here asking for you. I went down expecting Philip. Instead, I found Richard Cole, Philip's father. Gray suit, clenched jaw, eyes full of misplaced anger. How could you do this to my son, he demanded. He's having panic attacks. You ruined his business, left him homeless. I kept my tone even. Mr. Cole, your son humiliated me in front of my colleagues, used my resources without consent, and then tried to defame me. I left. The rest is his own doing. He was trying to help you, he snapped, make you seem more approachable, by calling me stupid in public. He never said that. I pulled out my phone, opened the video Mark had recorded from the dinner originally meant for a company highlight reel. There it was, Philip's smug grin, his voice loud and clear. She's cute when she's confused. I usually have to explain things 3 or 4 times before she gets it. I pressed pause. Silence. Richard's face drained of color. Well, he didn't mean to say it out loud, you mean? He swallowed hard. He's under a lot of stress. Then maybe he should spend some time alone. Richard muttered something about sensitive women before turning and walking out, his shoulders heavy. By Friday, Philip was officially evicted. I didn't have to guess, he made sure I knew. A new text popped up from an unknown number. "You left me to rot, but remember this, you owe me for everything you are." I stared at the message for a long time, then took a screenshot and archived it. Not out of fear, just documentation. Maya looked over my shoulder. "Still trying to play the victim?" "Always," I said. "It's the only role he knows." That night I lay awake, not from sadness, but from thought. Philip had lost everything because he couldn't handle losing control. The more he tried to prove his power, the more he revealed how little he ever had. I turned off my phone and whispered into the dark. "The difference between us, Philip, you need someone to blame. I just needed to leave." For a few blessed weeks it was quiet. Too quiet in hindsight. No calls, no emails, no blocked number surprises. I even started believing Philip had finally accepted the truth that he'd hit rock bottom and stayed there. But men like Philip don't sink quietly. They build a stage on the way down. It started one Wednesday morning when Maya burst into my room holding her phone. "Lena, you need to see this." On her screen was a blog titled "Surviving Financial Abuse, My Story." Front and center, Philip's photo. I scrolled, jaw tightening. He'd rewritten our relationship like a bad melodrama. I was trapped by a controlling woman who made my business dependent on her systems. She isolated me, restricted my access, then destroyed everything I'd built. He'd called me emotionally manipulative, jealous, vindictive. He claimed I'd weaponized technology to keep him dependent. Every paragraph was more distorted than the last. She made me feel small so she could feel powerful. The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. At first, I wanted to ignore it. I told myself no one will believe him. People know you. But then I saw the comments. Some strangers were sympathetic, others weren't. Classic narcissist behavior. Poor guy sounds like he escaped a control freak. Each one felt like a thorn. It didn't matter that they were strangers. They were judging a story written with my name, my pain, and his lies. Maya grabbed my hand. "Don't read that garbage. You know the truth." "I know," I whispered. But lies travel faster than healing. A few days later, Philip posted proof. Screenshots of our text messages cropped out of context. He'd included snippets where I offered to pay for his software, introduced him to clients, or told him to let me handle server maintenance. He framed it as control, but the timestamps told the real story. He'd asked for those things, begged for them even. And the kicker, he left in one line that ruined his entire narrative. "Babe, I don't want to embarrass you at that event again. Let me handle it." He posted that thinking it proved his devotion. Instead, it proved exactly what he'd done. Isolated me, condescended to me, then called it protection. Within 48 hours, the industry found the blog, and the storm he'd invited swallowed him whole. Harrison Wells, my mentor, commented publicly beneath Philip's post. "Miss Faulkner introduced you to half the clients you claim she stole. I have the emails. She vouched for you, paid for your tools, and hosted your site. You've publicly admitted to exploiting her generosity. I suggest you take this content down before you face real legal consequences." It was brutal. Professional, factual, merciless. Within an hour, dozens of others echoed Harrison's sentiment. By nightfall, the blog went private. By morning, it was gone. But Philip wasn't done. He'd lost his reputation, his clients, his apartment, and now he wanted back into my world. That Monday, HR at my company called me. "Hey, Lena, quick question," the rep said, sounding awkward. "Did you agree to be a reference for an applicant named Philip Cole?" My silence said it all. "Excuse me? He listed you as a collaborator and former business partner. Says you can vouch for his strategic insight." I let out a sharp laugh. I can vouch for his audacity. HR chuckled nervously. "Yeah, we figured. Just wanted confirmation." Later that day, my colleague Mark texted me. "You'll never guess who also listed me as a reference." Then came another from Julia, my boss. He applied for a job in our department. Don't worry, I already flagged it. It was almost unbelievable the man who'd publicly accused me of sabotage was now trying to step into my office and use my name to do it. That night, I found myself sitting on the balcony with Maya, the city lights stretching like a horizon of new chances. "You think he'll ever stop?" she asked. I took a slow sip of tea, considering it. "He'll stop when there's no one left to listen." She nodded. "Then he'll be very quiet soon." I smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe then he'll finally hear himself." For a long time, we just sat there. No noise, no chaos, just peace, the kind that feels like survival. But deep down, I knew there was still one more page to this story. Because people like Philip don't disappear. They fade slowly, dramatically, like an actor refusing to leave the stage after the play is over. 3 months later, the noise finally died. No more fake blogs, no more emails, letters, or sudden workplace appearances. Just silence, the kind that doesn't feel empty, but earned. Philip had officially burned every bridge he'd ever touched. Word spread fast in our small industry. Companies compared notes, and by the end of spring, his name was quietly added to every internal do not hire list that mattered. He wasn't blacklisted by me. He did that all by himself. Then came the final ripple. Clara, my lawyer friend, called one morning, laughing so hard she could barely speak. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "He filed a small claims case for emotional damages." I nearly spit out my coffee. "You're joking." Oh, I wish I was. He claimed psychological distress due to technical sabotage. We showed up to the hearing. Philip looked smaller, literally. Smaller shoulders, hunched dark circles under his eyes. When the judge asked for evidence, he pulled up screenshots from his old blog. The judge stared at him over his glasses. "Sir, these appear to be your own words admitting she paid for everything you used." Philip stammered, "But she controlled it." "That's called ownership," the judge replied dryly. Case dismissed, just like that. After that humiliation, I heard he packed up what was left of his life and moved back in with his parents. Apparently, he'd told everyone he was rebuilding after emotional abuse. Classic Philip rewriting history until he could live with it. His father, Richard, posted on Facebook, "So proud of my son for surviving a toxic relationship." My mom saw it, she commented, "Surviving what accountability." He blocked her within the hour. Mom called me laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Petty maybe, worth it absolutely. Meanwhile, my life had quietly transformed. Julia promoted me to Senior Solutions Architect, the same title Philip once mocked as a glorified tech babysitter. The raise was generous. The speech Julia gave at the announcement was even better. Lena's success stands on her intelligence, independence, and quiet strength. No one held her hand. She earned this. Everyone clapped, but I just sat there smiling to myself. That last line was a direct mirror of Philip's cruelty, a poetic reversal of the dinner where he tried to make me small. That night, I stood in my new apartment, my own apartment. The walls still smelled faintly of paint sunlight spilling through wide windows. No shared furniture, no reminders, just space that belonged only to me. I unpacked my last box, a single item, the note I'd left for him now framed. "I may not be clever in your eyes, but I'm wise enough to leave." I hung it by the door, a quiet reminder of the day I stopped mistaking endurance for love. Around midnight, my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number, just one message. "You'll regret leaving me. I'm the best you'll ever have." I stared at it for a moment, then blocked it without hesitation. No fear, no anger, just peace. Because by then, I finally understood something Philip never could. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And I felt a man who confused control for care, dominance for love. And I showed him who I am now, a woman who learned that leaving isn't weakness, it's